Traffic disruptions across various districts due to ongoing asphalt road repair works. Minister Gums launches second annual Dame Ruby Butte National Short Story Contest. Parliament meeting on the Chief of Staff of the Cabinet. State of Law Enforcement in the Caribbean Netherlands 2025. From the island, Sint Maarten, this is SXM Daily News for May 19th, 2026. The Ministry of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, VROMI, hereby informs the general public that ongoing asphalt road repair works will continue on Tuesday, May 19th, 2026 and Wednesday, May 20th, 2026 in several districts across the island. On Tuesday, May 19th, 2026, traffic disruptions can be expected on the following roads: AT Illage Road, Madame Estate, Mount William Hill, Dutch Quarter, Belvedere Border, Bishop Hill. To assist with the flow of traffic and reduce congestion, motorists are encouraged to make use of alternative routes, including via Brewers Road and Bush Road toward Philipsburg, via Bush Road, Brewers Road, and Arlett Peterson Road, Old Cake House Road toward Coal Bay, Simpson Bay, and Marigot. The works are being conducted as part of the ministry's ongoing efforts to improve road conditions and enhance safety for all road users. Key information recap. Dates: Tuesday, May 19th, 2026 and Wednesday, May 20th, 2026. Time: 7:30 a.m., 1:30 p.m. Daily. Locations: Tuesday, AT Illage Road, Madame Estate, Mount William Hill, Dutch Quarter, Belvedere Border, and Bishop Hill. Locations: Wednesday, Coal Bay Hill, Link 1, Octavius Richardson Road, Little Bay Road, and Kirksteeg area in Philipsburg. Traffic impact. Partial traffic interruptions expected in the above-mentioned areas. Roads remain accessible under traffic management guidance. Alternative routes: via Browers Road, Bush Road, and Arlett Peterson Road, Old Cake House Road. Reminder: motorists are urged to drive cautiously and follow all traffic directions. The Ministry of VROMI apologizes for any inconvenience this may cause and appreciates the public's patience and cooperation during the execution of these and all ongoing repair works. For more information, please email publicworks@zintma.artengov.org. The Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, Michi YS, proudly announces the launch of the second annual Dame Ruby Butte National Short Story Contest, an initiative designed to promote literacy, creative expression, and cultural appreciation among St. Maarten's youth. The contest is open to all students aged 12 to 14, with participants invited to submit original stories between 750 and 3,000 words. Submissions will be accepted from August 1st to August 21st, 2026, with winners to be announced in recognition of International Literacy Day on September 8th. This year's theme, Beats, Bites and Bacchanal, challenges students to imagine carnival in the year 2050, exploring how artificial intelligence and emerging technologies may shape the future of St. Maarten's most celebrated cultural tradition. Participants are encouraged to creatively examine how innovation and cultural heritage can coexist, ensuring that the spirit, identity, and energy of carnival endure in a rapidly evolving world. Carnival is a powerful expression of who we are as a people, our rhythm, our resilience, and our creativity, said Minister Melissa D. Gums. Through this year's theme, we are inviting our young people to think boldly about the future, while remaining grounded in the cultural traditions that define us. It is through this balance that we continue to build a strong and confident national identity. Entries will be judged on originality, creativity, coherence, and adherence to the theme. Strict rules prohibit plagiarism and limit the use of AI-generated content to 3%, reinforcing the importance of authentic student voice and originality. Winners will receive cash savings accounts sponsored by the Royal Bank of Canada, along with tech-based writing tools and opportunities for publication. The contest is named in honor of Dame Ruby Butte, St. Martin's first published female author and a revered cultural icon whose lifelong contributions to storytelling, education, and the arts continue to inspire generations. Schools, families, and youth organizations are encouraged to support student participation, particularly during the upcoming July-August vacation period. Full contest details, rules, and submission guidelines will be made available via the Ministry's official website and social media platforms. The Ministry of Romy was not the cause of the delay in distribution. The bins at the time of the MPS questions had received the placement map from the Ministry of Romy and were busy making the concrete platforms for the bins to rest on. Once completed, bins were installed. Questions from the MP. Can the Minister ensure garbage collection resumes promptly in areas where it has not been collected for days? For example, Coal Bay and Cahill areas are mentioned. Yes, indeed. If complaints of garbage are sent to me, they are sent to the relevant contract management group for follow-up. In addition, the public can directly contact the contract manager's team at the Vromy Infrastructure section, contracts@stmartingov.org. I continue to play an active role myself in inspection, carrying out and supporting the staff of the military, given the capacity issues.
The Ministry of Romy was not the cause of delay in distribution. The vendor at the time of the MP's questions had received the placement map from the Ministry of Romy and was busy making the concrete platforms for the bins to rest on. Once completed, the bins were installed. The MP's fifth question: can the Minister ensure garbage collection resumes promptly in areas where it has not been collected for days? Example, Coal Bay, Cahill, areas mentioned. Yes, indeed. If complaints of garbage are sent to me, they are sent to the relevant contract management group for follow-up. In addition, the public can directly contact the contract manager's team at Vromy-Infrastructure section contracts@stmartingov.org. I continue to play an active role myself in inspection and carrying out and supporting the staff of the ministry given the capacity issues. The MP's sixth question: why is the landfill compactor down? How long has it been down? And what is the plan to fix it? The compactor experienced a hydraulic leak at the front end, which affected the compactor's brake system. In addition to the failed brake system, the compacting pegs of the wheels deteriorated to an extent that compaction was no longer effective. With regards to the overall safety of persons entering the landfill and considering the further deterioration of the compactor, which can increase the cost of repairs, the machine was taken out of rotation in February. In the meantime, a smaller compactor from another landfill operator is being used. Since the delivery on August 18, 2021, alongside with other equipment for the landfill, a temporary budget of $300,000 was created for maintenance. This has been included in all subsequent budget lines since, but the sum is unfortunately not enough for long-term strategic maintenance of the heavy equipment. Given this challenge, in 2025, the ministry approached NRPB about the possibility of repairing the equipment, and at the end of February, the ministry submitted a request to NRPB to fund the repair of the compactor via the trust fund. Long-term, the financial framework provides more robust financing for a more sustainable waste sector. The MP's seventh question: will the procurement policy legislation be in place before the new tender so procurement can be done as promised/campaigned on? As stated in the past, the Ministry of Finance has taken the decision to develop the procurement policy within SPARE. SPARE is a project of the Trust Fund to develop capacity across the entirety of government. The development is not expected to be completed in time for any new solid waste tender within the coming 5 months. Does the delayed 2026 budget impact the subsidy project intended to help the Permits Department? What other projects are delayed due to this budget delay? The delay in Budget 2026 does not impact the project to help the Permits Department. Note that the funds used to enable the ministry to temporarily strengthen the Permits Department comes from a grant received from the Netherlands to execute capacity building within the ministry. The funds were already allocated within the budget 2025 and not fully depleted by 2025. Article 14, paragraph 6 of the Kingdom Act on Financial Provision and Article 16, paragraph 3 of the National Ordinance on Public Finance allows for the budget of the preceding fiscal year to serve as a basis for financial management in order to keep public services operational. This means that at minimum, the most essential tasks of government must be continued in the interest of continuity. Other projects like that within the Teweo country packages were also able to continue once the financing had been received.
Law enforcement in the Caribbean Netherlands is under structural pressure. Structural strengthening is necessary. In its new State of Law Enforcement in the Caribbean Netherlands 2025, the Council for Law Enforcement warns that law enforcement on Bonaire, Sint Eustatius and Saba remains structurally vulnerable and, without substantial reinforcement, is not future-proof. According to the Council, capacity, border control, information exchange, detention, forensic care, and the approach to juvenile crime remain under continued pressure. At the same time, security risks in the Caribbean region are increasing due to subversive crime, geopolitical tensions, and growing social pressure on the islands. The Council notes that the Ministry of Justice and Security is taking important steps and endorses the Council's earlier analysis, but that on crucial points, too few concrete measures are yet visible. As a result, the risk remains that structural problems will be resolved only partially or too slowly. There are particular concerns about the situation on Saba and Sint Eustatius. According to the Council, the criminal justice and security chain there operates with structural limitations and gaps. Capacity problems, the lack of local facilities, and dependence on Bonaire lead to unequal access to justice for residents of these islands. The Council also explicitly draws attention to the continuing absence of central coordination for intelligence-led operations within the maritime hub, the growing problem of juvenile crime, the inadequate digital infrastructure within the justice chain, and the risks surrounding data exchange within the kingdom. Finally, the Council emphasizes that protecting the rule of law in the Caribbean part of the kingdom is no longer merely a local issue, but a strategic security issue for the entire Kingdom of the Netherlands. The Council therefore urgently calls on the ministers to sustainably strengthen justice organizations financially, organizationally, and in terms of capacity, and to quickly translate policy intentions into concrete and executable measures with clear timelines.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SZV account today and enter the virtual office of SZV. Go to szv.sx and sign up now.
SZV, yeah. Your social and health insurances.
St. Martin, May 18th, 2026. The second suspect in the ongoing criminal investigation into an alleged public assault has been released by order of the court after being held since May 15th, 2026. The court determined that MO's continued detention was not necessary for the investigation to proceed, and that he would make himself available to investigators as required. MO was released from custody but remains a suspect in the investigation. On May 15, 2026, the National Detectives, Landsrecherche, arrested MO and Member of Parliament OO in connection with the investigation into an alleged public assault that reportedly took place in April 2026 at Carnival Village. The MP was released the same day after questioning. About the MP, who remains a suspect in the investigation, it should be noted that under St. Martin law, the investigation and arrest of a parliamentarian follow the same procedures applicable to any other suspect. The distinction is that the prosecutor's office must obtain permission from the Joint Court of Justice before formal charges can be brought against a MP. The investigation is ongoing under the direction of the prosecutor's office. The National Detectives, Landsrecherche, is the specialized investigative agency responsible for investigating suspected criminal conduct involving government officials and civil servants. In the interest of the ongoing investigation, no further information will be provided at this time. Parliament meeting on the Chief of Staff of the Cabinet, MP La Cruz, just to help MP Johnson, Webster with that question, and it's all over the news. That was in a consultant who was hired.
Madam Chair Lady, just to help MP Janssen Webster with that question, it's all over the news. It is clear. That wasn't a consultant, that was hired, that was someone hired explicitly for that project. It's right there, all to be seen. You could look for it. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
MP Veronica Jansen Webster responds, "The coalition is being before the people. What I would like to say, opposition leader, should go before the people."
Coalition being before the people, what I would like to say, opposition leader should go before the people. You know why, Madam Chair? I counted in here, I counted 7 ministers, but I can't remember if I counted the current minister. 7 people who were ministers before. And I would like to know if those ministers, those former ministers, really feel that you could just pass up a Yezet and way advice, or if those ministers, those former ministers, really feel, that the contract that was given, where it is not me to judge whether it was a conflict of interest or not, but whether they feel that would be normal and they should do it in their ministries. They do that in their ministries as well.
MP Janssen Webster, with your indulgence, I'll allow MP Duran to make an interruption. MP Duran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm sitting down and my mind is blown away. for one strange reason. Not because of the direct details of the situation with regards to the advice asked by Yezetaway by the minister, but to hear my colleague talk about deviating from Yezetaway. Madam Chair, the budget come here without Yezetaway advice, and nobody said anything.
Members,
So
allow
for me,
the-
Madam Chair,
Allow your
we
colleague to
cannot
make
be-
his statement. MP Duran, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you, members.
Madam Chair, we cannot be representatives or oversight when it's convenient. The budget, the national budget of country Sematic came here without Yezetaway advice, among many other things. So I'm not defending that because I still am doing my research based on what the minister presented, and I'm going to ask my questions when the time comes. But come on, Madam Chair, we can't be hypocrites in here.
I do understand where the good MP is coming from, but one thing we forget, it's called an advice. And I, as former minister, as a decision maker in this country, don't need and didn't need to take an advice from anyone because it's just an advice. And my job is to motivate if I would take that advice or not. Again, it is just an advice. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Lewis.
Madam Chair, the minister actually mentioned that he always followed the advice of his departments. So maybe only of his ministry and not of others, but the minister did mention that. I have that noted here as well, that he had mentioned that. But I continue. My question to the minister is, after all of this and after all that you have spoken and said about the Prime Minister, I mean, I know him, I think, a couple of years, a good bit of years, but now, if I listen to everything that you say, and yeah, I guess the public also listens, you paint a completely different picture of him compared to what other people know of him. But after all of this, would you say that there is a working relationship with the PM? Or is this a case now of a breakdown in government? And if this is a breakdown in government, then how do you perceive that you can continue working in the COM with this Prime Minister?
MP Lyndon Lewis. This is what the minister presented, and I'm going to ask my question when the time comes. But come on, we can be hypocrites in here. I do understand where the good MP is coming from, but one thing we forget, it's calling advice. And I, as a former minister, as a decision-making this country, doesn't need and didn't need to take advice from anyone because it's just advice. And my job is to motivate, whether I would take that advice or not. Again, it is just advice.
Minister Brooke, through you, Madam Chair, I know you for many years. We were also candidates on the same party back in 2016, which I think you were there for since 2010, if I'm not mistaken, but the inception of USP. Minister Brooke, to you, Madam Chair, I also worked with you when I was a police officer and you assisted us as a FAKS officer. Minister Brooke, through you, Madam Chair, I believe your heart is in the right place for this country. I, too, took some time to become an elected official and also a minister. I also had the opportunity in working with the Prime Minister as part of his first cabinet, and I can deliberate and say here it wasn't easy. And I have mentioned it publicly about the meddling in everyone's ministry. I've said it. It's there. It's on record. Minister Brugge, I also, like I said, not only hold the ministerial position, but the two biggest ministries in this country, that which was justice and education. What I'm investigating today, Minister Brugge, through you, Madam Chair, is not the issues between party members, the integrity of the institution. Minister Brugge, the 12-page letter is just a 12-page letter to me if it does not have any underlying documents or evidence, I would consider it as a novel. We have to substantiate stuff. We have to bring evidence when we come on the floor of Parliament. The hearsay things I can't deal with. But I'll say this. You also already mentioned the point with the contract situation, the advices that your staff signed. There's an article in the LMR, and it's clear, it's Article 54 of the LMR, Minister Brugh, stating clearly that no government employee cannot have a contract or a family member that is close to them have a contract within government. That's law. So even though if you, like I mentioned just now, an advice is an advice. But when it comes to the law, and I was a law enforcer, I have to go based on the articles provided within the law. So not only that I would see, and it's my opinion, that it was conflict of interest for your chief of staff to sign an advice, it is also prohibited for her husband to have a contract binding with the government, and she is also a civil servant in government. Again, I'm not for the tit for tat. You did say, listen, we make mistakes. I make mistakes too. They started an investigation on Minister Lewis because of a memo. I do understand you. But what I'll say is this. The party problem right now is a big issue for me on how we're going to move this country forward. There's major problems within your party. They distance themselves from you. And I would like to know, what do you personally think about it on how you're going to help move St. Martin? Because yes, you have a ministry, but you have a council of ministers. And I've said basically, based on the behavior of all ministers, I put all are in one box, and I would say you all are incompetent.
Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labour, VSA, Richinel Brugh, last week once again continued his community outreach initiative through the distribution of fresh produce to vulnerable groups across St. Martin. The initiative forms part of the Ministry of VSA's broader Health in All Policies approach established last year, which recognizes that public health extends beyond healthcare alone and includes food security, nutrition, social support, and community well-being. Following a similar initiative held in December, the ministry collaborated with churches, senior homes, soup kitchens, community organizations, and key individuals within the community to distribute fresh fruits and vegetables to feeding programs and individuals in need. The initiative also comes at a time when many families continue to feel the effects of the rising cost of living, increasing fuel and utility costs, and global economic pressures linked to ongoing international conflicts and war, all of which continue to impact small island economies such as St. Martin. Minister Brugh emphasized the importance of supporting vulnerable families and strengthening partnerships with organizations that continue to assist the community daily. This initiative is about compassion, dignity, and ensuring that persons in need know they are not forgotten. Minister Brugh stated, "Something as simple as access to fresh produce can make a meaningful difference for families, seniors, and community feeding programs."
Now for the weather forecast, tonight through Wednesday evening. Fair to partly cloudy, hazy and breezy. Isolated showers are likely. Surface winds, tonight through Wednesday evening. Easterly with a gentle to moderate breeze at 8 to 17 mmHg. Higher gusts are likely. State of the sea, slight to moderate waves, swells, 3 to 6 feet outlook through Thursday evening. Partly cloudy, hazy and breezy, becoming cloudy at times with isolated showers. And now your 3-day forecast.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurance.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
Willemstad, the financial sector of Curaçao and Sint Maarten, remained resilient throughout 2025. But the outlook has become increasingly uncertain due to rising geopolitical tensions, global market volatility, and growing cyber threats, according to the 2026 Financial Stability Report released by the Central Bank of Curaçao and Sint Maarten, CBCS. The report states that banks, insurers, and pension funds continued to benefit from strong economic growth, healthy liquidity and capital buffers, and sustained expansion in tourism and real estate during 2025. Together, financial institutions within the monetary union now hold assets totaling approximately 28.8 billion guilders, equivalent to nearly 3 times the combined GDP of Curaçao and Sint Maarten. However, the CBCS warns that risks to financial stability have increased significantly. According to the report, global geopolitical tensions, instability in international financial markets, and rising cyber risks are creating a more challenging environment for the island's financial system. The central bank also pointed to the growing use of artificial intelligence and rapid digitalization as factors increasing exposure to cyber threats. CBCS President Richard Doornbosch said the institution continues to strengthen supervision and regulation in response to growing uncertainty. While the financial sector in Curaçao and Sint Maarten remains resilient, the global environment has become increasingly uncertain, Doornbosch stated. The central bank said it will continue prioritizing cyber resilience and climate-related risks as part of its financial stability framework. This is our SXM Daily Newscast. Thank you for joining us.